title, was that those are kind of a lot of the same sorts of characters that are in this collection too. They're kind of marginal characters, edge of the world kind of characters, and yet the collection is made up of a lot of sonnets. Um, and I don't know if you guys are very familiar with the sonnet form. Just I won't go into great detail about it, but just there's something about it that's I think really significant in terms of that idea of the gold tooth and the marginal people, and that's that the sonnet is it's originally a troubadour's structure. It's a love song. It's based on that courtly love idea, but I read this interesting critic who described the sonnet as having a move. Its movement is always from earthly problem to heavenly solution, and the earthly problem is often the problem of unrequited love, or and in the courtly love, the ideal coming out of that Arthurian sort of folklore was that, like the model of Guinevere and Lancelot, is that the knight has this passion for the queen, but it's completely, inappropriate. You can't consummate that, right? And so that becomes the model for the problem. You have this love for this object that you can never have, right? And so you'll see in a lot of sonnets, early sonnets, that the solution is often out of that unrequited thing. It's the consolation, like, well, at least I have the vision of your beauty, or something like that, which seems like a sort of, and this poetry joke, a Pyrrhic victory, but it's still, nevertheless, that becomes, and so it becomes the model is like moving from the earthly problem to the heavenly solution is, going from the earthly desire to a more, from eros to agape. Anyway, so that's kind of the structure of the sonnet, the history of the sonnet, and that's inside a lot of the sonnets and became part of what I was thinking about a lot in terms of how to structure all the poems, whether they're sonnets or not. Anyway, all right, so I won't lecture English class style. So the first poem in here is called Mind Moon, and it's about a guy named Frederick Church. You guys familiar with Frederick Church? He was a painter, Hudson School of Painting, a student of Thomas Coles. Anyway, and I have a quotation from D.T. Suzuki at the beginning of it. It says, "Sometimes the master is more poetic and compares the mind of emptiness to the moon, calling it the mind moon or the moon of suchness." Okay, and this is a sonnet. "Light in Frederick Church's Syria by the sea comes out of a central source unseen. The foreground ruins are an autobiography. In Sunset in the Tropics, the mind strives to go beyond the dissolving withered tree, the wasteland in the distance, and the empty horizon where a brown river flows from the rich pigment of green earth, slow poisoning with cadmium and arsenic. And by the creation of his last scene, the Church of San Diego, color bare, he would resolve his own pale form and behold, like Eckhart's little point, broken rafters vanishing in true moonlight." Right, that's a sonnet. That's the first one. But if you read the rest of it and you see, it's also the original title. I had another couple of titles, was The Carnival, and I always thought of the book as having kind of like a Barnum and Bailey quality to it. And so that's the sonnet, the formal sonnet that sort of brings you in. And then the next sonnet is called Jazz. And it goes like this. "The only way to make it through all this is music. Listen. Heat-bold cockroaches are taking over the walls. Palm trees swing their radial arms. Screams of pleasure rise through the floor in the century it takes to crawl to the door as a ghost comes from time to time to press his face through the window grime. Yet that holy saxophone hymn lifts you and me, and I say the smoke flowing over the balcony has a razor's edge that cuts through the moon's wide eye and the paralyzing night." So now it's a sonnet, but now it's shifting, right? It's shifting worlds. And it's still with the turn. All right. So that sets it up, okay? And I'll just kind of read you a few of these early ones in here. Not all of them are sonnets. I'll announce ones that are sonnets, so you can kind of listen for that thing. Blackfish. "The hill people trickle in from their blind hollows in the back roads under camouflage tarp covers deep in the cedar groves. They've come to town in their finery and smoke-soaked coats, drinking, laughing, bigger and louder than ever, while Beauty appears and crosses the street to the Salvation Army in Morton on Saturday night." Anybody know where Morton is? Eastern Washington. All right. I'll read you another sonnet here. It's called The Voyagers. Sometimes when I see those drunks in town, I think, yeah, but everybody's got their drunk cousin drunk, uncle drunk, mother, father, wife. But some of them are just so blown down, blind, exposed, and passed out, vulnerable, like they're dead or the world isn't real, and they're just waiting for the mothership to pick them up from the cosmic landing strip. But then, beauty pulls a curtain back or shows up in worn shoes next to the bed, and without getting into the specifics of dread, look at this as a series of broad strokes. As one asleep under the sun turning blue wakes up from oblivion without a clue. That's a sonnet. All right. Here's one. It's called Father and Son. This is kind of a little autobiographical. My father took us out to the lake. His friend had a cabin there. We fished, we swam. His friend had a son my age, a big dumb kid with stupid eyes and a slow brutish way. My father and his friend drank beers and whiskey and smoked cigars. The mosquitoes were thick in the air. His friend brought out some boxing gloves and told me and his son to put them on. And I fought the big dumb kid, while Dad's friend hit a bottle with a knife to start and stop the rounds. The big kid hit hard, and I didn't let on. I could see my drunk father was proud that I was sticking it out, fighting against his friend's son, that I could take a hit and keep on going, that I fought on with the smell of beer and cigars like in a real boxing ring. Something I realized about this one, as I go through them and sort of think about reading them, the opening, my father took us out to the lake, his friend had a cabin there. I'm working with some iambic pentameter there, but I started realizing, after I'd already been working with this poem for a while, that I had lifted some of the rhythms from that W.B. Yeats poem, The Lake at Innisfree. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. And it's not a poem I know really well, but it sort of floated in the back of my mind, and I kept reading those first two lines going, where have I heard that before? Where, you know, I will rise and go now and go to Innisfree and a small cabin build there of clay and wattles made. Anyway, I condensed the lines, but I somehow that's just a weird thing I noticed, and I love the way that that floats underneath it, because that's a poem about finding peace, whereas this is a poem about kind of entering the world of like conflict and reality and, you know, combat in a way. Anyway, that was something I learned as I was reading it. All right. Let's see. No, I'm not going to read that one.
I'm going to pan to the audience.
Oh, the expansive. Wave, you guys. You're going to be on YouTube, maybe. Say hi. Unless anybody, you have to sign some, you know. What do you call those things?
What?
Release of
Oh.
liability.
Yeah, it's going to be on YouTube.
That's right. Push your names. Oh, okay. This is from part 2. Lila's Bar and Grill. Helicopters are crossing the skies. Talk of another war. I'm wading through the storm in the cool fog bank among foghorns and seagull cries in Nowheresville, where the old men hunker over coffee cups behind cafe windows, while spiders crawl centuries from hand to elbow and back again, lacing another dream kingdom to catch us all, those sinister little gods. So the gold tooth and the crooked smile of God. Thoughts of a hanged man. I'll never be cold again. I'll never feel hate again. I'll never be hungry again. I'll never feel fear again. I'll never know pain again. I'll never have nightmares again. I'll never be shamed again. I'll never regret again. I'll never choose badly again. I'll never wait in line again. I'll never... Yeah? There's humor in the gold tooth. All right. I kind of want to read this one, but it's called Mad Alice. You guys ready? Okay, hang in there. Mad Alice. She was crazy as a kid, sullen, quick to take offense, insecure, invisible she felt unless she raged. My grandfather fell in love with her or something in her, and he wrote stabilizing love letters to her when she was hospitalized in Bellingham, all about the house he was building and its view of the lake. I don't know if that was even true, the house, or if he was just painting a mental picture for her to try and bring her out of whatever whirlwind he'd lost her to. And who would he have been if he hadn't been her caregiver for years, writing in his journals little notes about the weather and what they did that day? But otherwise silent as she sniped on about the Germans and the Japanese and the draft dodgers and those low-life protesters. She'd shoot every one of them, lost in her home with trinkets I don't even think she liked, and plastic runners on the floor and plastic covers on the couch, and grandfather in his blue pipe smoke. She ranted year after year and hated my aunt for her European style and my mother for her philosophy. She was an ugly, mean, bitter woman, brooding at Thanksgiving dinners, put off by talk she couldn't understand. And as she aged, it's as if her own body couldn't stand her either, never putting on weight, vague diagnosis of diverticulitis, nervous indigestion. She only drank hot water and liquid opium drops, and eventually drifted into serene twilight, so that when my father dumped her in a nursing home, they called her Smiley. Smiley. I met Smiley once or twice in her little room where she sat and stared hour after hour and couldn't recognize me when I came. Then even I abandoned her, and maybe she saw it coming. All those years back, saw her isolation, saw how we fight it out mostly alone, and who knows what happens to her, or who knows what happened to her back in the days when she was a child, in that world of beasts and men. Who knows what happens to most of us? "Hey, Grandma," I once asked on our way to visit grandfather's grave, "did you and Grandpa ever go to church, ever talk about the soul, or what happens when you die?" "No," she said, simple and flat. Never saw any point to it. None at all. That's what she said. Pragmatic. American stoicism. A grim fortitude of disappointment and distrust. Thank you, grandmother. Thank you for the blood and the codes and the patterns for your men. Thank you, Smiley. It's 65 degrees, mostly cloudy. Had lunch with Tracy. Good Monte Cristos at Norman's. And the forecast is better. Surprising light and occasional happiness. All right. Some of you may know who she is. This one is kind of a lift as well from John Krakauer's book, Into Thin Air. You guys ever read that one about the hiking? Yeah. It's called Wind Horse. Lung Ta ripples on the hill beside the bodies, frozen in mid-step or where they fell, preserved in perfect fields of ice. Lung Ta, as if the air took breath from the lungs only to give it back again. There where Hal looked west into the Qum and felt as cell by cell his legs wove deep in the quickening ground. With each breath he said, "I'm coming down," into the radio with softer and softer voice, as though before him he beheld some beauty more entrancing than life below the base. Om Mani, the mountain whispers, and Padme Hum. For if you climb as they have climbed, higher through that field of burning white, you'll feel with every shallow breath and labored step the plucking at your arm that is not the pull of wind alone, but the hands of those who linger in glittering coats of ice, begging you to take them with you to the summit. And that's that one. All right. This is my surreal poem. You ready for it? It's called Wednesday. What better title for a surreal poem? Middle of the week, Wednesday, hump day. Laid out on the floor of the Hollywood bathroom, eyewitness to the following. The world is so still, so quiet at exactly 6 o'clock. Driving around the point with a cop on my tail, I whistled to appear normal. Gray and red tile do not Art Deco make, nor Persian rugs and man moths. That made sense a minute ago. Thought weighs heavy on the soul. Text messaging is for children and cheaters. A photograph says I was here. Know what I mean? We live by too much evidence, so use your imagination. Hunger strikes, mad money, trial bases, shadow of a doubt. Mean what? The scent of your perfume lingers on my hands when you're gone. Who is this really? Towels hang from the rack with our shapes still in them. Getting closer. I love your smile and your eyes, the troubled years that changed the images and the art you made. Days your commitment wavered like a boat loosely tethered to a buoy. Storms galloping in the trees, limbs bent back in the wind. Where you'll go is where I've been. That's my surreal poem. All right, this will be a little bit longer one. I like some of the narrative ones. Still, though, the principle of the sonnet still kind of active here. It's called L.A. Days. When I was a young man and living in L.A., my life felt just like a movie. Driving my beat-to-shit car down the wide-open highways through Agora and the golden hills of Diamond Bar, like I was back in the 50s, cruising on Azusa and drinking it up at the Brass Elephant or the Red Onion, absorbing declensions at Cal Poly, working at the rat-infested peanut company, till I kicked out a belligerent drunk who won $10,000 in the lottery, and for that the manager fired me. Carving up lines at the Holiday Inn, having insane conversations with Eddie, who looked just like Joe Pesci, who was on trial for assault and was now acting as his own lawyer, saying, "I'm smart. Why have an overworked, underpaid public defender fuck things up?" And the weird Zoloft brothers, wearing their green velvet shirts and alarm clocks around their necks, whispering in their made-up language while Professor Halsey takes a century to casually crook a leg on the corner desk. Or afternoon happy hour at Don Carlos's, drinking margaritas in the garden, winking our way back to the townhouse where she dives into the blue electric pool and calls me with a crooked finger back to our room where we drift high on a futon and a sunspot on the floor, stone-free and spinning with the world. Or late night drinking with Shonda and Jalal, who fight, and yet he'll say, "I want what you have," as we're knocking back tequila shots and chopping up the worms, chasing dragons in the siren night, till I slip away to grab some sleep before the hammer of another workday, lying there breathing, heart beating fast, mind on the race, helicopters overhead with lights strafing the neighborhood and punching through the windows. So I rise and behold the spine-sharp shivering spears of morning plant life and the crazy hidden people laughter. Then I'm off to the construction site, dry mouth, no water. I must have put in 50 nails with the nail gun before I realized the futility of all this and walked off and got a cold beer. I barely got out of there alive. And I loved it. Was in love, reading Joyce again and Kafka, Aldous Huxley and Boethius, and Hemingway's Old Man and the Sea. Trancing out in movies like Rumblefish, Blue Velvet, After Hours in Brazil. Soundtracks and concept albums, floating above it, and she was, under the ruins of a walled city, L.A. woman and Babylon sisters, swatting at flies in the kumquat shade in the juniper hills of Mount Baldy, tripping ass with Jack and Laurie and McKenna and Pitzer Escherscapes, with vine-heavy moth-covered oaks, and courtyards under floating balconies, stairways rising to swirling star skies until a cop appears with his flashlight shining in our eyes, saying, "Get on out of here." And Jack's gone off his rocker because he got a copy of the Necronomicon, and then weird shit started happening, so he tried to throw it away, first by tossing it in the alleyway, yet there it is in the back of his closet when he wakes up the next day, and he thinks, someone's trying to fuck with me. So he tries to burn it, but it won't burn, tries ripping it up, but the pages won't tear, and it's freaking him out, and he's freaking me out, telling me about it. Like our lives, he says, are missing chapters from Steppenwolf or Damien, being read into existence through some magician's incantations, as we tip into strange cartoon scenes with giant mini-golf Dutch windmills that suddenly appear on the freeway with big blades swinging down, swoosh, narrowly missing a swoosh as we drive right through a tiny door, laughing happy into the orange fire of the setting sun. And later on the golden beach we swim out in the rolling breaks and on through the oblivion neon-lit martini belly of the ocean, sky dotted with swizzle sticks, kites, and moon eye on the perimeter come to peek in on the world. And they're decorating Christmas trees with beer cans for the bonfire, and Brian's cooking up a batch of fun while Chris plays a strange new song he wrote that slides us into 3 a.m. and back to dawn, where we wind up at a trailer park with Uncle Dom's crooked back and pushing a ratty dog off the couch, a rattling gold watch on his bony wrist. Tumbling, rolling back through Westwood, flowing with the wild children, resolving into Indian Hill Boulevard with streetlights slithering scorp-tail shadows, reflections over the hood of the car, the 10 freeway, loud howling, and there never is an end to it, the sound, the constant flow of L.A., the eye of the storm twisting its way in a slouching river rush to be born like a hurricane or a crashing wave or a champagne flute exploding in a fireplace on a Hollywood stage set, an engine revving, a news voice droning, couples drifting toward the dream spirit who shows her face in a rearview mirror as we drive in sync, linked by karmic DNA, pulling up to the family garage, and someone crushes out a cigarette, and someone looks just like Joan Jett, and someone's on a beer run, and someone's showing off their gun, and anything can happen when you feel just like Jesus' son. But we make it through, like a perfect three-point jump shot out of nowhere, prayer in the night. And so I've come back to tell you about this dream I had, about a man who goes into a theater to watch the movie of his life, and all the way through he keeps saying, I remember that, or that never happened, or, oh man, I wish I could do that again. LA days. All right. A couple more here. Right. Another sonnet in your neighborhood. Morgan Street Junction Cafe, 4 p.m. on Monday. That's specific. Wild 5-year-old kids tumble in the chairs. The adolescent girl reads away the afternoon, avoids her home and everything that's there. Each of us has a debt to pay the weather. Today is gray as a movie of London. Greasy-haired workers in buildings of old black brick and sooty windows Dickens wrote into the world. And who wrote you, woman? Newspaper trembling in your hands. Or you, trying to overhear a conversation so quiet you'd think you'd stumbled into forest vespers? Bars exhale their patrons. The street trebles like a song, and inside every house, when one light goes off, another comes on. All right, one more sonnet here. It's called The Contestants. It's a day you might knock a knuckle out replacing a battery. It's a day you might get the stove to sing. We were never more seen or overdue for this thatch hut version of oblivion, otherwise known as timeshare, otherwise known as heaven. Come into the boardroom and review the options on the vision. Out the door the storm blows, the wicked and the lawn chairs. Debris stacks up as post-buffet we swim through the pool to the sea in waves that go on endlessly. That's a sonnet. All right, one more sonnet. You guys can handle another sonnet, right? It's called Ricketts Kid. How many of you guys know what rickets are? Ricketts, yeah. Ricketts Kid. Each morning as the bus made that swing around the corner and we saw him up on a branch in the tree in the front dirt yard because someone said he had rickets, and rickets made your bones weak. When he jumped down, I'd cringe, thinking he'd land and break a leg. But he'd rise and get on the bus in his raggedy shirt and sit up front excited for school while I was full of dread. Because when the door opens and we step out, whose yard, whose home, whose fragile bones we climb into is a mystery. All right. Let's see. This is not a sonnet, but it's another one. It's another one of the surreal ones, you guys. This is a surreal poem. Right? It's called Madman on the Rooftop. He's crouching down in a corner on the rooftop parking lot. Just leave me alone. I'm not doing anything. People are going to lunch, going home after early shifts. The beehive is buzzing. An I-beam is sweeping over the street, dangling at the end of a chain from the end of a crane. Traffic stacks and flows. The madman among the madmen is just another sound, even when he leaps and falls, and someone calls, and the sirens wail, and the emergency workers scoop up what's left and haul it off. He wanders thin, ghost-free, and now unseen, but still ranting, "Leave me alone! I'm not doing anything." Does anybody know what the hum is? Or the hearers? The hum is like this, it's like a syndrome, really. People who are kind of, some think it's from tinnitus, a hearing problem, and they think they keep constantly hearing like a low rumbling sound, like a diesel engine in the distance constantly going into it. So this one's called the hearers, and it's based on that. They hear it constantly, a low rumbling like a truck going by, and it drives them mad. No answer to what it is. Industry, electromagnetic pulse, plates in the earth grinding away. And she hears it too. I hear it. Can't you hear it? It won't stop. It's like a nightmare, and we can't wake up. And she says it's making her crazy. Can't wake up. Can't wake up. I say, look at your hands. That's in there with the surreal poems. All right. This is another slightly longer poem about a good friend of mine named Brian. who I knew when I was living in San Diego. It's called Brian. My poor mad friend, once wild hippie San Francisco child of Haight-Ashbury lost, with blonde girlfriend Jenny and big dog Waldo, walking like a small, glorious, happy to be alive family, with his time in the Navy rolling away behind him now, free for all the world to raise his fist at the demonstration, to say no to blood wars and to roam the roads and seas, for at heart he is a sailor, going off to Oman and the Gulf to set up big rigs spinning like clockwork, melting on the shore, and then on through the Red Sea and down the coast of Africa to a meeting with malaria at the wedding of the town prince, he the only white man standing there in photographs with sunken face like Marlowe or Kurt's eyes far away. And then back slowly through a dream on the railway by the blue sea sweating to the sun, and the black snake of the coast, the fade in and fade out haunt of fever chills, and blackouts in public rooms, to Paris to meet a friend who of course immediately sees how sick he is, and takes him straight to the hospital to get a shot and recover and wait 3 years to clear, recurrence always at his back. Like voices in Half Dream outside the window on sweltering summer nights when he's back in California, blaze and golden swale and the sea at his feet, a great glittering blue mind of the world always touching, riding her waves, and now he's selling motorcycles and making the circuit of biker bars in Ocean Beach and El Cajon in the hot neon palm dream lights, flying the freeways, going to see Brother Chris and his band, The Restraints, at the Spirit Club, or friends at the Low Tide, going faster and faster on his Yamaha 550, the nights reeling through the ceiling fan, spinning in his basement apartment, tracer sunlight blurring overhead, Cowles Mountain burning, fires spiraling like a second hand, and then an even better job, more money selling big parts, ball bearings for cranes, transmissions for tractors, and new synthetic drugs for a wound tight mind. I'll grow my hair forever, he says. Buy a new car and computer. I'm a 21st century man. Refitted, maxed out, connected to chat lines and riding high with a new girlfriend, Betty, cooking crystal for all his friends, the ocean at his back, the railway through the front yard, engine blasting every 3 hours, and he's blazing. He's flying faster than sound, dancing all night in a blur and a haze, a never-ending party gone way out of bounds until boom, snap, crash, swap, oh, God, the bleak morning. The unbearable monochromatic blue of sky. Where'd the fun go? Friends moving north, brother marrying and moving north. Oh man, gotta go to work. Everybody wants a piece of me. Owner at one corner, salesman at the other. Cliff, the parts manager, semi-reliable left-hand man. Incapable most of the time, losing orders. Snap, boom, crack a chick, chick, chick. That's it. I'm gone. North on the road, north he's going, with his cat in the back scratching out its fur. Road unreeling in a blur, little towns full of hicks and bigots and their gaze saying, don't let the sun set on your back here, boy. And it lights his mind with the black night road ticking white pulse and dash all the way up the coast. Ocean gleaming, moonlight streaming on the beach at Cape Blanco. At last, where he rides the shore in the silver glow and receives moonlight vision, sacred wisdom, Urantia. Yes, Urantia. It comes like enlightenment, like a Blake backyard radiant vision of pure God fire. Angels come down to whisper in his brain, Urantia, the new land, Urantia, the place of God's children, come out of the maze of industrial America's Darwinian nightmare ooze and Christian work ethic madness with clean souls and forbidden knowledge, Urantia. To live and love and give what you can, to do what you can, like say, fix the old lady's refrigerator, paint some guy's mobile home, ask no price, take only what they offer, even if it's nothing at all. Dream it into reality, since reality is only this make-believe dreamland projection of the mind. Yes, it all comes back from the head of a pin, the voices of the masters, Zenpo speaking from heaven-world texts of the beautiful all to our free minds that wander in and out of bodies as we choose, or linger on the dark light hub of whirling fate, waiting to leap in, looking for perfect love partners, entangled there below, and hear their cries and go. And he'll get a boat and live on it, no tax, no encumbrance of land, no phone or address, but the sea. And he tosses the credit cards, tosses the bills, leaves no forwarding address, free, then temporarily living out of the back of his truck in a bayside park, plans bus booming so that he can't sleep, has a drink, no more speed, pure adrenaline now, and the bay shrouded over, the dreamer on the bodiless rock, and he'll gather others like himself, work on boats, stay far away from Uncle Sam's claws, pay no attention to his laws, only the pure God word spoken directly to the brain the child knows before his ABCs, and he paces the park lights, humming something unraveling, shadows full of hunger and skittering insect forms, and oh no, the vision is dissolving. No, damn it, it just won't hold. And now he sees cockroaches in the stones, his whole sad life made up of these episodes, fits and starts and incomplete decisions. Decisions? He can't decide at all where to go, what to do, but takes his gun, he's got that too, and goes down to the shore to stand beside his vast dream sea. Oh, sad, sad, miserable me, a little flea dreaming he's a saint or Messiah, when all he is a mad insect clawing at the stars, behind which find only decaying dead flesh feeding on the wheel, trapped in the bargain, mind whirl of illusions, roads and rooms and ruins. So he fires a shot out in the dark. There's a star for you. There's a shooting star, you lovers and sad sailors, rolling on decks and unreal seas all around. That's my fiery blaze. Brian. All right. I suppose I'll read you one last poem. Are we doing? Yes. I thought you kept it long enough. It's called The Consolation of Philosophy. You know, you got to have the answer, right? You got to have the thing. And you can hear that, like, from the structure of the sonnet, right? The, sestet at the end is the consolation. So you don't get the lover necessarily, but you get the consolation. All right? The Consolation of Philosophy, also reference to Boethius, who I mentioned earlier too. Boethius, another medieval philosopher, writer, wrote a book called the Consolation of Philosophy. Wrote it from prison, and I believe he was in prison for sedition. But anyway, I won't go into that. The Consolation of Philosophy. Not much time left, or space. These are the Titanic pages. You dodged the disaster, didn't you? It always catches up, meaning there is a great ledger book behind things in which you will find recorded all your joy and success, sickness, failure, pleasure, and suffering over the arc of several lifetimes, because one is never enough. As every soul is delivered in exact proportion, the same amount of comedy and tragedy. So know it today, my friend, and even in a single lifetime, maybe see, for some, the balance in the heart of it, the crux of the great wheel Fortuna, as you slide out spinning faster and faster, heading towards the edge of fling-off. Also note those sad, ugly, wretched, addicted, poisonous, and scabrous souls crawling through their days, or sitting on a city bus beside that clean, grinning, happy, dull, complacent, everything goes right for me, citizen of the universe. And know they're exploring the same themes, but in different chapters, and will swap roles in the next production, and on, until enough, you say, enough, I got it, and you will. So rather than plunge through the blue door into the grunt-moan, dim, wet birth room, you'll backflip like a deep-sea diver into your own little convalescent dream, eternal on a white sand beach with a thatch hut and occasional friends and an ever-stocked minibar, right? Or some other urge will grip you, and you'll scan those passing possibilities like static stations flipping by until you say, that one, and slip into another lifetime, just for the hell of it. Just because you heard and believed, given a choice between nothing and grief, grief is better to choose. Or you actually, God help you, think you, in your infinitesimal spark, might do some good, nudge the whole works towards some finer arrangement, or at least help in however small measure, doing no more than hold someone's hand. The possibilities you see are endless. We are watching from the hub, and know from past and future experience the frustrating and beautiful realities, and we move among you from time to time with disengaged amusement, unattached, curious, close, but wise, and wary of the pitfalls involved in your particular schemes. The song, the particle, the wave, the eye, the mind, the raving lunatic, furious buildings, and the moments have all a busy and absurd agenda. And you're holding a ticket, and walking up the gangplank, thrilled and aware of every smell, every nuance of light, every face, texture, and movement of cloud, ready for the adventure. Beautiful, strange, innocent child, bless you on your journey. Bless you in your optimism. Bless you in God's speed. That's it. I've read enough. All right, you guys. Let's go.